Folks, we got an all-star lineup today. We always do, but we've got an all-star lineup. Normally we have one superstar medical person. Today we've got a number of just incredible human beings. And this next gentleman, I'm gonna read a little bit about him for you. And I read this last night, and I had to share it. I had to share it with a few people this morning, just how remarkable this is. But anyway, Dr. Skibsted is going to be our next speaker. And before I introduce Dr. Skip, I want to tell you a little bit about him. He has been called the doctor to the stars. He has treated celebrities such as Bob Dylan, Tiny Tim, Lonnie Anderson, Michael York, who was the star of the King Arthur movie a number of years ago, President Ronald Reagan, and many, many others. He holds a degree in chiropractic and a diplomatic degree in craniopathy. He has held cranial seminars across the United States in all of the major cities every 3 months for over 10 years while having a full-time clinic in St. Paul, Minnesota. He taught 25,000 platform hours at the prestigious Parker seminars held 4 times a year around the country. He was also invited to present cranial seminars in Japan, Australia, Hawaii, and several times in London, England. He served 2 terms as the president of the Sacral Occipital Research Society International, also known as SORSI, S-O-R-S-I, for those of you in the chiropractic community. You're familiar with that, I'm sure. He was awarded Chiropractor of the Year from both SORSI and also the Parker Seminars, as well as the Crystal Skull for craniopathy. Now, go back to what John and I were just talking about, okay? Aging. Dr. Skip has been doing this for 60 years. And at the age of 92, he is still practicing on a regular basis. Needless to say, one of my heroes, somebody who I want to emulate and be around when I'm 92, still doing what I love, Munich Tech. Dr. Skip, welcome to the call, my friend. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure.
So to start out with, we know that quantum physics is dictating the entire universe as a unified field of energy. And energy is among us with the fact of the conscious mind is always indicating that the energy is conscious and also intelligent. So it's always in a state of vibration. And so with that, the conscious mind is actually indicating the fact that we can use kinesiology muscle testing through the subconscious mind of the body that harbors all the storehouses, all the effects within the body. So we know that the triangle of health is 1/3 nutrition, 1/3 structural, and 1/3 mental or spiritual. So we do a little demonstration on all our patients that come into our office, and I'm going to use my wife Judy as a patient, and we're going to test her, and we're going to have the muscle strength. We're going to ask her for reciting her name.
My name is Judy.
So we test the arm and it's strong. And say your name is Gertrude.
My name is Gertrude.
And it's weak. So that indicates a strong arm as a yes answer, a weak arm is a negative or a no. So what we're going to do now is actually take the tongue blade and we'll test her, and it's weak. So we put the tongue blade on the right side of the bite line and test, and there's no change. So we change it to the left side and we test, and it's strong. So that tells me that the TMJ is stressing the left side of the cranial vault, which harbors all the facts, the figures, the conscious thoughts. In other words, the stress side of the cranial vault. So now we take a packet of Immunicol and place it on the body. And we ask the body, does the product that you have on your body needed by the body? And the answer is yes. So now we check for dosage. So we check, does the body need more than 1 packet a day, 2 packets a day, 3 packets a day? So it needs 2 packets a day. So in summary, what happens is that the TMJ stresses structurally the left side of the cranial vault, but the nutritional aspect of support is needed and shows to the patient that it's required for making of the glutathione within the cells. And the packet contains the precursors so that when it enters the cell membrane of the brain cell, it actually has qualities to pass through the blood-brain barrier, and it actually produces the glutathione, which is needed and necessary for the neurotransmission of nerve impulses. So now what we do, we take the cell phone, and we know that the heart extends the electromagnetic energy out from the body at least 6 feet. So we test the cell phone, and the arm test is weak, so we put the tongue blade on the left side to have a strong arm. Okay, so we start testing the cell phone at arm's length away from the body, and we continue to bring the cell phone into the body. When it enters the electrical magnetic field of the body, its arm weakens. So let's take a packet of immunicol.
I leave this in.
And we put it here, and we put it in the electromagnetic field of the body, and the test strong. So what's happening is that the body is actually responding very well to the stress of the packet of immunicol. So now we need to know by testing the arm, it's weak. So we need to have a structural change of the cranial vault, and we also need to supply the immunicol to the patient. So in summary, we know that the population has about 95% of the cell phones, and due to the issues of microwaves in the household, the computers, and all the electromagnetic impulses affecting the neural system of the brain, it's necessary to have the glutathione produced by the cells. So we need to have the issue of the structural issue of the brain, which actually harbors concussions, and we have brain cancer growths and strokes, which is all necessary to have nutritional support. And we also have the food chain that actually has microwave and pesticides in it, and according to Keith Hooper, he's talking about the dead food that we're eating in his Wednesday night phone calls, and this also depletes the nutritional aspect of the body. So with all the impulses derived from the cell phone and the microwave and the computers and the Wi-Fi's within the households, is constantly bombarding the nerve cells, causing a neurodegeneration of the brain cells, which is a big cause of Alzheimer's and dementia. And it's necessary for the body to have the glutathione that supports good, healthy tissues. And of course, we know that the glutathione passes the blood-brain barrier, and which is all important. So with that, we need to have the patient, by show and tell, knowing the fact that the glutathione is needed and necessary for the body to sustain its homeostasis. And of course, we know also the fact that glutathione is one of the major players of the immune system in the body, and we can't discount the fact that that's a required issue in today's world. So after we show and tell the patient, the needed requirement for glutathione, we tell the patient to go see Judy, and she proposes to sign him up as one of the distributors. Okay.
So doctor, let me ask you a couple of questions. You said a lot of amazing stuff here, but one of the things I really love is 1/3 nutrition, 1/3 structural, 1/3 spiritual.
Yes.
And that's just remarkable life advice, health advice and life advice. I think for all of us to hear, from someone who's been a legend in your industry for 60 plus years, number one, and number two with Immunotech. But if you could, without having to get into specifics, I know a little bit of how you were introduced to Immunical. You had a health issue yourself, I believe, and a friend in New York introduced you to the product. How long ago was that, and anything you want to share on that?
We were vacationing in Scottsdale, Arizona about 15 years ago in 2005. And there was an ad in the paper to have a full body MRI for $600. So Judy and I never see any medical doctors or anything. So we said, why not go for it? So in the process of getting the MRI, they found that I had a 2.5 spiculated lesion in the right lung of my body. And the doctor said, this is not a friendly lesion. You better get that checked out as soon as you get home. So they made the copies of the study, and I took it to 4 different medical doctors, and they all concurred that it's not a friendly lesion. And so they recommended I have a biopsy. So in the meantime, we called Beverly Miles, and she actually beat it terminal cancer, and asked her what she did. So she suggested to take some glutathione and Munical, and we said, well, where do you get it? And they said, well, you get it out of Canada. And so we didn't actually change our minds about taking it. So we started that right away. So I was on the Immunical for a couple packets a day, and we were scheduled for a CT scan and a biopsy in 6 weeks. So we went through the CAT scan, and the doctor said, well, Skip, we are not going to be doing a biopsy today because your lesion reduced 50%. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. And so he said, well, we're going to redo the test in about 3 weeks. In about 12 weeks. And so 12 weeks later, the lesion was showing on the screen, reduced down to my little fingernail. So he said, you're out of the woods. And so to this day, I'm clear, my lungs are clear, and I don't have the lesion returning, and I feel fine. And at 92, I still work.
I have to ask you, how many days a week and roughly how many patients per week are you still seeing?
Well, I got to have a day off once in a while. So I do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Great, great.
Yeah.
Well, doctor, let me give you the last word. Anything else that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, all our patients are very grateful for the fact that they got someplace to come and receive a good correction on their health challenges. And every one of them are receptive to the fact that they need the glutathione, the Immunicol, to help their system be protected against the viruses and the stress in this world. So we're happy to treat the public, as they are coming into the office here.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much. And I know you're an inspiration to myself and to so many other people, and that you're still going strong at 92, and you look great. And thank you so much. And thank Judy as well. And this has been some remarkable information. And thank you once again.
Thank you.
And this is his spine tie that
Yeah,
somebody made
I
for
like
him
my spine.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
with his name on it. Dr.
Beautiful.
Skip.
And are the two of you going out dancing this weekend?
Oh, of course.
Okay. We Judy, I both of my sisters are on this call, and some other people that are, let's just say, over 50. And Judy's not going to get off too easy here. I got to ask her, some of the people that you worked with in your career, because you had quite a career in addition to Dr. Skip. So just share, if you would, a little bit about, what you did for a living and some of the folks that you worked with.
Okay, well, before we got married, I had a career in entertainment. I played a Hammond organ and an instrument called a Chamberlain, which was as big as a Hammond organ. It weighed 400 pounds. And it had a full keyboard, but I could play every other different instrument on the keyboard: the saxophone, bass, drums, vibes, guitars, trumpets, everything. So between the two, I could sound like a full orchestra all by myself. So I played different clubs and dining room dancing kind of venues around the St. Paul, Minneapolis area, the hotels and so forth. And then I was playing at the Sands in Phoenix when a producer from New York came in and saw what I did and thought it was so different. He said, I want you to fly to New York with the Chamberlain and do a show with Bobby Darin. So that was my very first show. And so, of course, at that time I was young, and my mother went through all his credentials to make sure everything was okay. So I put my Chamberlain, crated it up, put it on the airlines to fly it in the cargo section to New York, and did a show with Bobby Darin. And now when the producer from New York met me, he met me in Phoenix, Arizona, where I was playing at the Sands. And so he thought I was from there, and he thought that I was a Western kind of girl. So he wanted me to ride a horse up on the stage that had these curved steps going up on stage. And they had this whole, routine up there, and wear a cowboy hat. And so I said, I'm as far from a cowgirl as you'll ever get, and I don't know how to ride a horse. And so he said, well, you'd better learn, because I build you that way. So I had to learn how to ride a horse and get an outfit and a cowboy hat with rhinestones around, because I wore little spaghetti strap dresses and little rhinestone dangly earrings and so forth in my performances. So that was my first show with him. And then from then on, he had me doing shows with Jack Jones down at the Diplomat in Miami. I did a show at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. I did shows. I did a show in the Stardust in Las Vegas. And so I flew my Chamberlain on the cargo section of the plane everywhere I went, because there were only 8 or 9 professionals in the United States that ever played a Chamberlain. So so I had to fly that everywhere. So that's what I did, and it was amazing. I would work in a club in my own hometown of Minneapolis and have about a 6-month contract or whatever in those days. And then when the producer would call me to go to New York and do a show with some big celebrity, I said, absolutely. So I'd get a substitute to play the Hammond organ, keep my job in Minneapolis, fly the Chamberlain out, rent the Hammond organ where I went, and then do the show for a week or whatever it was, and then fly back and have my same job. So it was fabulous. I had a great career.
Great.
I was on the Steve Allen show and the Lawrence Welk show, and I also did commercials for H.J. Heinz Company and a few other companies, Scott Paper Company. So had a great career.
Great. Well, you guys are a remarkable couple. And Judy, I won't ask how old you are. I know you're a little younger than Doc, but you guys are both doing great. And one question that has come across on the chat line from Jacoba is, how many packets a day did you take, Doc, when you first got your when you first had your health challenge back in 2005?
Well, that was 15 years ago when nobody actually had any dosages that was effective. So basically, I was taking 2 packets a day.
Great. And that was regular Immunical or Platinum at the time?
Well, I had one of each.
One of each. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, great. Thank you so much once again, Doctor and Judy, and very information, and keep going strong. And you're an inspiration to us all. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, John.
We're taking Immunical because I understand it also adds length to the telomeres, which is your aging process. So we're actually getting younger every year.
Well, you both look great. So
Okay. All right. Thank you, John.
Thanks again. Hey, listen, like I said, it's an all-star day. We've got remarkable speakers, and the next gentleman. And, you know, I'm taking notes here. I'm just looking at my notes because I've got the notes for running the call. And I mean, I go back to Dr. Skip was talking about, you know, a third nutrition, a third structural, a third spiritual. Boy, that's life stuff that you can run on. And then I look at what Bob just talked about visualization. Right. And knowing that you're going to win before you even compete. Very, very important in every aspect of our life. And of course, the mirror. Hey, look in the mirror before you do the presentation. Right. And you're going to smile at yourself. You can't help it. Right. You're not going to go in and be mad at yourself. You're going to go in and you're going to smile at yourself a little bit. Right. Just those things, just that those two gentlemen shared. Man, this is stuff people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get, and you're getting it for free because you're part of Immunotech Research. I muted myself. That's terrible. My wife has muted me in the past, but I've never muted myself before. Anyway, let me get back to Dr. Jeffrey's introduction. But what I was saying, I hope you guys got this. I mean, notes, some of the notes so far. Dr. Skip on a third nutrition and a third structural, a third spiritual. Words to win by. Bob, what he's sharing about the mirroring and looking at yourself before you present, giving yourself the right self-image, okay? Words to win by, once again. And of course, visualization. Win the game before the game is played. I tell my son when he was playing hockey actively, you got to win your shift before you get on the ice, right? It's exactly what he's talking about. When I competed in judo all over the world, I always had in my head before I ever fought what I was going to do. I didn't get out there and go, what am I going to do? It's like, you got to go out there and react. It's the same thing in business. So anyway, moving on. Our next speaker is a remarkable person. He has been a chiropractor for many, many years in the United Kingdom, outside of the London area, lives a beautiful area along the English coast. He's a man who is dedicated to health. He's another person who is defies age. Every time I see him, I think he's about 40. And if I didn't know him, I think he's about a 40-year-old guy. He's actually not. He's a little older than that. Still going strong, trains every day, dedicated to purpose, great life philosophy, great business philosophy, building a great distributorship, by the way, with his beautiful other half there over in the United Kingdom. And I want to turn the call now over to our good friend, Dr. Jeffrey McTavish. Jeff, how are you today?
It's Jeffrey. Yeah, I'm grand. I'm grand. I'm fantastic. Thank you very much, John. And I just want to say wow to those other speakers, both John and Bob and Dr. Skip. Wow, Dr. Skip is like the older generation of my person that I look up to, you know, is going like, wow, he's got the amazing amount of information. And I have a mentor like that in Belfast, Rafe McCutcheon, who's an osteopath, and he is just a fountain of knowledge. And I just absorb a lot of the stuff that these people say, because there's so much value in the basic concepts of what we've been taught through not only chiropractic, but also what Skip didn't mention, but it was also the foundations of kinesiology, which was founded by Dr. George Goodhart. And it's interesting, and I find this really super interesting, is that the way that how this product can have an effect on our physiology, from what Dr. Skip was saying, because I want to just pick up on what he said, was we were talking about, and he was using the analogy of muscle tests with Judy, in the dispowering of this stuff, these mobile phone thingies, and how it dispowers our own energy fields, and that how the energy field of the heart can be affected and by this little wee device we call. But it also affects the brain. So we know that, I know Dr. Skip mentioned that it's actually 6 feet. Well, it's actually been measured to 22 feet through magnetocardiography imaging, that it measures this field of electrical currents that the heart gives out. And what this does, and we have to understand one thing, is that we have in our heart and in our brain a tremendous amount of mitochondria. And I've spoken about this before, about how mitochondria, there is a process in the system called the electron transport chain. And on the last part of that chain is a motor which spins at a very specific frequency, which creates a magnetic flux, which we can now measure not only in the heart through this magnetocardiography, but we also can measure this through the brain in the encephalographic. Yeah, sorry, it's late for me and I haven't even eaten since about 12. So it's a measurable field that we can get to. This is what I'm trying to say. And that because we have the highest concentration of mitochondria in our heart and in our brain cell, we need to have high concentrations of something that's going to decrease the exhaust, I like to say, because some people just don't understand what a free radical is, or a reactive oxygen species, you know, all the lingo that we talk about that we may be familiar with, but some of the people that we talk to don't know what a reactive oxygen species, but they may have heard of a free radical. But we know that these are the things that create, it's not a chaos, because it's a chaos in communication sometimes within the cell, but it's also a chaos that degrades the cell and their ability to be able to perform all the different processes within the cell. And so we know that when we're talking about the brain, because I want to get back to what Bob was saying and also what John was saying, and basically we're talking about how the brain is able to conceptualize ideas, emotions, beliefs, and movement, and all the other things that we are designed to do, like Dr. Skip said about the triangle, and how that this particular involvement in brain function creates waste products, and we need to reduce the waste products. However, we also know that free radicals actually create a different type of communication in the brain as well. So it's a fine balance between it. It really is. And so we know that the brain uses up a tremendous amount of oxygen, but it has a low body weight. And you're looking at 20% of the amount of oxygen versus 2% of how much it weighs. It's like a massive. And we also know that there are up to almost 3,000, maybe even more, mitochondria in one brain cell and also in a heart cell. This is why these magnetic fields can be measured. And what I want to understand is that the importance of what we've got in this little wee sachet on our hand that we take every day is that it mitigates a lot of these different, it's mitigating not only the role of the reactive oxygen species in terms of a detrimental effect, but it's also modulating and having a huge effect on many, many other parts of the brain. So we know that also we're looking at different brain cells because we've got several different types of brain cells. And we know that some of the brain cells need different precursors in order to process everything. And so one of the things is that we can know is that glutathione is one of those precursors that, not only precursor, sorry, the immunical product can provide the precursor, which in turn the different cells within the brain will be able to manifest the glutathione, but also other elements within what a cysteine molecule will do within the cell. When we look at this, we look at how the brain can then communicate neuron to neuron, or a heart cell from heart cell to heart cell. And one of the things that I quite like about all of this science that is coming out that John Molson talked about was the effect of how glutathione, or we could say immunical, how it affects the brain and how in so many different ways we're talking about function in terms of movement and or thought or function of our autonomic nervous system, our brain stem, and all these other things. So all of these things have some sort of a mobility and ability to be changed. So we know that there are some things, and I know Dr. Skip, we've all learned from our patients, different things that challenge us that then create us to go out and learn more about what that particular person has experienced, both maybe physiologically or mentally, whatever, and how that we can help them and use all our means to be able to help them. And for us, and I'm sure Dr. Skip will be the same, and anybody else who's going to be a practitioner of anything, doesn't matter, is how this particular product can help in so many, many, many ways. And the idea being is if we can have a product that has so much scope in bringing so much joy and wonderful physiological aspects that are all positive, there's nothing negative about this product, to everybody, then we've got something that's kind of really interesting to talk about and have passion about. And I had a patient who came to me with a condition of her sons, and they had autism, and she had two sons who had autistic tendencies. And I had told her about what the trial was happening in Florida, and I encouraged her to go just look up the details, etc. And she came back 6 months later and said, do you know, I think I've done the research about this product and I want to go and try it and just see what happens. I'm not sure, I'm not expecting anything, but I want to just see what happens with this product. And she did. She ordered the product and she started giving it to her children. And when the children took it, they're quite autistic, some of them, so some of them took it and then didn't take it. And then they did take it, there was miraculous changes within the children. And she went from an ideology of, I think it works. And then she went to, I believe it works. to a little bit later on in the picture when she saw things changing in her children and she went, I know it works. And this is the key to this product. It has a timeline that for some people it's weeks, maybe days, I don't know. And some people it's a long time. For me, it was 3 months. And then I went to that process. I think it works. I believe it works. I know it works. And this is the thing that I found really profound when I speak to all my patients about this, is that this product is individual. It goes everywhere, different for everybody that you bring it to. It's a pill of powder. It is your food insurance. It's a health bank deposit that every time you take this, you put it into your health bank and you're just creating more physiological wellness. I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of a silly word, but you're really just saying, thank you, body. I'm going to boost you with more goodness every time we take it. And this is the really cruel thing about it is it's cool. Sorry, not cruel. Is the cool thing about it is because when we look at what Bob was talking about in terms of being able to stretch our brain and maybe if you're a golfer, I know this is very true, where you think about making moves when you play golf, but you're not actually at the golf pitch or whatever they call it. I don't play golf. And you can imagine sitting at home, lying down on the settee couch, and you imagine that you just did that putt or you just played that driving thingy, whatever you call it. I don't like golf. But it's a cool analogy because what the idea being is that you could imagine how you went through the process of doing that. And they have done studies that when you look inside how the brain is functioning, when you hit a ball and you're imagining it, you're actually activating the muscles on a subcellular level to be able to do that. And this is called plasticity. And when you go into a scenario where you want to train somebody or you want to learn something new, or somebody's just had a stroke and they have to get back to their normal self. One, when they've had a stroke, you have to give them Immunical immediately because they have massive amounts of free radical production. Two, you have to build back into their system plasticity. Now we're going back into the brain. We have to go back into maybe what John talked about was the microtrauma through our lives and going through those systems, and then all of a sudden something happens. Or we're going through somebody who's a very short period of life, maybe they're 12 or whatever, or 19 or 20, and they want to improve on their sport. They want to improve on anything else. It's called plasticity, and it's the ability for the brain to connect new neurons and be able to communicate neuron to neuron. And it's really important that we reduce the oxidative stress of those neurons so that there are a clear conversation. So I say to people, it's almost like the old analog radio where we get a lot of static and we have to turn the dial to get it in and we get a nice clear signal as opposed to a digital signal that we have now, which is super clear. This is the difference between having something that is not really performing well and then performing really well. So when we look at plastic changes in the brain, when we want to learn something, we want to create something, we want to expand on things, we need to have that cellular communication between neuron to neuron to neuron to neuron. The only way that we can reduce the stress from that oxidatively because of the amount of mitochondria which are in the cell is to be able to reduce that oxidative stress. And this is where Immunical shines like a big beacon. It's really, really great. And this is where we can really help a lot of people with so many different elements of cell physiology, because this product works on a cellular level. Let's face it, it works on a cellular level, and we are just a bucket load of cells with a nervous system that is creating life for us. And this particular product is nothing but supportive for everything our body wants, bar none. You cannot say nothing negative about this product unless you have a problem with lactose. That, what is it, 0.1%, John? That is very small. It's so small. And in other words, you have a belief. Now, this is the other thing that I just, Dr. Skip was talking about, people coming in and getting adjusted, and his philosophy. And I think, Bob, you talked about philosophy, or somebody talked about philosophy tonight. And this is about our belief systems. And our belief system is still brain-based, but it's also heart-based. Who rules what? It really doesn't matter. They are interconnected, and they are both so magnetically charged that we can actually measure it. But what happens is that we need to have those cells expressing their energy level at the highest level, and reduce the amount of degradation that our systems are exposed to, so that this cell can expose itself and be able to be 100% fantastic. So this is why I wear the red glasses, because I'm dealing with crap lighting that I've got in front of me, the blue screen of the TV, my LED lights here. I've got that, so it reduces my DHA degradation in my eye, which affects my retinal epithelial pathways, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when it comes to looking at how, just on a really elemental level of how glutathione, how it links into Immunical, and how it would link into how it can help you, it's the belief that you have of how this product can help you based on maybe what you've experienced, or what you believe, or maybe what you know. I wrote a song when I think it was about 25, and it was called Belief in My Believing, because I believe in what I believe in, and I have that belief about my believing. And we all have that same thing about this product. We believe in it, or we wouldn't be on this call, or maybe we're on this call to learn about it. If you're learning about it, then take the product, because then you'll start to believe in it, and then you'll form your own beliefs. Then we have the science that can back it up, and we don't have any holes. We have a solid foundation. We have a company that has value and purpose and a philosophy behind it that is rock solid. You cannot fault this company, and I've been looking at different products and different companies for a long time, and when this came by, when it was available here in the UK in 2015, I said, stop, I'm ready. Boom, I'm doing this. Because there is no other product out there that can have this credentials. It has credentials coming out of its ears. And we must be so proud to walk out and talk to people and say, we've got this, we got that. It's almost like being a boxer. We got this, we got that. Fantastic, great. John, you could be pressing all that weight. Musical. Because it makes you strong, both emotionally, physically, and all the things that this product brings to you, we have to bring to those people who we know could use this product. It's an amazing product. It's an amazing opportunity. It can help your wallet, and it can help your heart, and it can help your brain, it can help your body, it can help everybody that you love. Just share the product. Thank you, John.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Jeffery. And there's so much I can take from there. I got all sorts of notes, but to summarize, it just comes down to what you talked about, the body and the brain, and what gets measured gets improved. And to your point, the only way to know that Immunical is working for you is to take it, right?
Yeah.
And you'll feel those improvements. So great stuff. And thank you for staying up late. I know it's getting a little late there in the UK. So thank you as always, my friend.
Tea time now. Dinner.
Great. Thanks, Doc. Take care. So, okay. Our last speaker before we wrap up for today is Dr. Nancy Cellini. And she, amongst other things, she is a graduate of the New York Medical College with a master's degree in public health and a doctorate in public health. She's certified